Hey everyone, I'm Carrie, and finally, after months and months, I am back with the second video in my t-shirt quilt series. My first video kind of went over prep work and fusing, interfacing to the back side of the t-shirts and cutting them out. And today I am going to show y'all how I go about putting together a bunch of random t-shirts and making it into a quilt top. If you hear little toenails clicking or dogs barking, there's not much I can do about it, honestly. Maybe Jake can lower the volume on the moments when his dog barks. We have cows and stuff in the back pasture, and it never gets old for him. He loves seeing those cows and barking at them. So I have 20, or not 20, but I have 70 shirts, designs, blocks cut out, and they range in size from this big to this big. So I just went ahead and counted every single piece as a separate block. And what I'm going to do, so I have 70 pieces. I'm going to tackle this so that I am basically making 4 quadrants that each measure about 60 by 60. I know they can't be any bigger than 60 by 60. So since I have 70 block designs or t-shirt fronts, that means I can put about 17 or 18 shirts in each quadrant. Now on the wall behind me, I've got 19 up there. I might not need this piece up here. I'm not really sure. I don't do math, so I'm very visual. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be adding scrap fabric to fill in all the gaps. So this quilt is for my mother and father-in-law, and I kind of just grabbed black and white neutral scrap fabrics that I already had, and we are just going to go through the stacks and cut strips and then go from there. So the first thing I'm going to do these in columns. So the first thing I'm going to piece is I'm going to piece this column here. And what I need to do is probably start down here and piece all of this together, because I feel like that is going to be the widest t-shirt block in that column. So that is what I'm going to do right now. And this is probably going to be not super exciting, so Jake might have to speed up some of this or add some music or whatever, but I am gonna go ahead and pull down these 3 pieces here and just kind of figure out what fabrics I want to put in between them, and then I will put it back on the wall and continue moving up, adding fabric as I need to. So, all right, I'm going to give this angle a shot because it's kind of awkward. I'm on my MacBook Air, so I've kind of angled the screen down so you can see what's on my cutting mat. And what I'm going to do first, I'm looking at these 2 pieces. And the piece on top is a little bit wider than the piece on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and trim, keeping the design centered. I'm going to trim off both the left and right side so it's the same width, and that's going to make my life a little bit easier. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So now I can sew these 2 pieces together at my machine. And I'm going to have to remember to bring this microphone around the table with me. I really want a wireless microphone. That would be really nice. Okay, So I don't do anything super special here, just a regular 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I like my stitch length to be at about 2 millimeters. And I'm just gonna start sewing. You'll also see that I am not a pinner, and sometimes that works in my favor and sometimes it doesn't. So when I press, I'm going to press this open just to eliminate some of the bulk. Now you can see, even though I trimmed it, it's still kind of hanging off the edge a little bit, so I'm going to trim it again and just square it up. Probably because I didn't pin, but it's fine. Alright. So now I am lining it up next to the pink shirt, and I have about an inch gap at the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little strip of fabric, but I'm going to cut it wider than I need it. So I just grabbed the first fabric on the stack. I'm trying not to overthink it. And I'm going to cut 2 inches by 6 inches. And I'll set this fabric aside or move it to the bottom of the pile so I don't repeat it too much. So I'm just going to sew this piece to the top, again with a 1/4 inch seam. So I'm going to go ahead and press toward my scrap fabric. It's also important to remember that when you're ironing, you want to make sure you're not putting your iron directly on top of anything that's screen printed, because it might melt. So just try to keep that in mind. So I am going to now trim the excess off the sides. And I might even square up just a little bit that long piece. So I've got my pieces all sewn together. Now I'm holding it up next to the pink shirt, and I'm going to go ahead and sew it, and I'm just going to line up the t-shirts down at the bottom, and when I get down here I'm just going to let it hang over, and after I press it I'll trim that excess off again. I think too, because the seam is so long, I'm going to go ahead and pin it. So take a picture, I'm using pins. Just a few. Ow. Okay, here I go. am a fan of back stitching, so that never hurts. So I'm going to press it. Let's see how I want to do this. I guess I'll press it open. Okay, so I'm going to trim off the extra fabric at the top. Some of you might think that I am just wasting a ton of fabric. I really don't care. I mean, I have so much fabric. I will never use it all in my lifetime, and I am happy to throw away like a little piece. Like, I don't have a problem with that. So it's either that or spend hours and hours calculating math, and I would never get this project done if I had to do that. So I have the first section done in my column. I'm going to put that back on my design wall and grab the next shirt. So my next plan, I want to put this shirt above this block, and it's measuring slightly wider than the piece I just made, which means I either want to cut the shirt down or I want to add a little piece of fabric to the left side or the right side of my first block. And I'm thinking, because it's fun, I'm going to go ahead and add a scrap of fabric to the left side, and it'll just add more visual interest, I think. So it's probably about, well, let's see. It's only a half an inch, maybe 5/8 of an inch wider than the block on the bottom. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and trim this block to fit the width instead of adding fabric, because I don't want to end up with the skinny strip of fabric that's only like 1/4 of an inch wide. So I'm going to take half an inch off. Well, I'm going to take half an inch off, but because I want to keep my design center, I'm going to take 1/4 of an inch off each side of the shirt. So now I am going to go ahead and sew these two pieces together. And for this seam, I'll go ahead and press it open again. It's probably best to just press everything open. I just hate pressing open. Okay, so I'm going to put that back on the wall. Okay, so the next shirt I'm going to do, I was moving stuff around a minute ago. Just, I mean, it's just however you like the blocks to be. It doesn't, you know, you don't have to follow any specific rules. I just thought this shirt is going to need extra fabric added to it, and I would rather put it near a shirt that doesn't have any extra fabric, just so it's all balanced. So I'm going to add maybe like a 2-inch strip to the left side. I'm thinking the left side, since the other block, the fabric is more on the right side. Let's see if this is wide enough. Okay. So I'm just going to cut, and this is more than I need. I think I'm just going to cut, maybe I'll cut 2.5. To use it again until I get through all of them. And it's pretty much the same thing. I'm going to add the fabric here, and then I'm going to cut off anything that hangs over the edge. And I'm going to press toward my fabric. Okay, so I'm going to trim off the excess at the top. And I'm sorry if y'all can't hear me very well. It's just, I forget to pick up that microphone and move it with me. Alright. So we've got that. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to come over to the wall here and measure the width of the Grand Ole Opry block. And then I will trim down my extra fabric. Okay, so it's 14 inches. And now I can attach this piece to the first two blocks. You can also use clips, because I think that might be a little bit easier and I won't stab myself as much. And I will press open. So what I'm going to do now is measure the length of this piece, because I want to make sure I'm close to 60 inches but not over 60 inches when I finish this column. So I'm right at 38 inches. Right at 38 inches. It's like so awkward filming. So this is the block that I pulled off the top of the column, and it's not as wide as the Elton block that's going to be under it. So I'm going to add fabric, only this time I think I'm going to put it on the right side, just, you know, for aesthetics. And then I'll have a more balanced looking quilt as I'm adding the scrap fabrics. Trim it down a little too, just because I don't want a real skinny strip of fabric. So I'm taking about 3/4 of an inch off each side. That's about 3 inches wide. which is more than I need, but better safe than sorry. Okay, so I've got my piece of fabric. I'll move that piece to the bottom of my stack. And I will go ahead and attach this piece to the right side of my block. And I'll press toward the fabric. And then I am going to trim off the excess here and a little bit at the top. Okay, so now I am going to attach it to Elton. And I'm going to press this open. And just like before, I will trim the excess. So now what is happening is you can see that Elton is slightly larger than the blocks under it. So I'm going to trim off from the right side just enough to make it so that it's the same width. This is kind of why it's good to leave a lot of, not a lot, but extra space around your quilt block, your t-shirt designs, so that if you have to trim anything down, you're not cutting into the design as much. So I'm going to take off 1/2 inch. That could have gone better. Okay. So I will now put these two pieces together and measure again to make sure I'm not over 60 inches. I don't think I am. Hopefully I'm not. Length isn't a big deal since this I have a 12-foot long arm frame. It can't be bigger than 120 width-wise, but as far as length, it actually doesn't really matter. I can go a little bit over. It's just you don't want it so big you can't put it through your washing machine. And I'll press it open. Okay, so I'm up about 58.5, which that's great. So I'm gonna move on to my second column and do what I did the first time. It looks like I'll have to add a little bit of scrap fabric between the shirts, like horizontal strips, but I think it'll be a little bit less complicated than that first row. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to get a cup of coffee and I will come back unless I encounter any kind of I'll come down into the frame. Unless I encounter any kind of issue, the next time you see column 2, I will have it assembled and attached to column 1. So I will get my coffee and get going. Okay, I'm back slightly sooner than I expected. I think, so this shirt here is from Hamilton, and this little, so this was the back side of the shirt, I think, and then this was the front, like a pocket kind of, and I think my in-laws wanted like shirts to be together. I'm pretty sure. So that there was some sort of context, like what's this random star with a guy on it? You know, like you kind of have to know if you've seen Hamilton, like you would know. But I'm pretty sure when we laid the quilt out the first time, they were kind of putting like blocks near each other. So I moved Jackson Brown down. I swapped it with the Hamilton block, and then I went into my pile and I added this little piece here. So that's what I'm gonna do for my second column. I'm just here to show y'all, look how old this fabric is. This was back when Ruby Star Society was with Cotton and Steel under, I think it was it was RJR Fabrics. So never cut into this until now. Okay, so I finished my second column and everything went fine. I ended up, so I started with Kenny Rogers and the little star for Hamilton, and I started by adding this piece of fabric to the top of the star, and then I added a strip of fabric to the top of the shirt beneath it, and then I put those two pieces together. Then I came down here, and for Jackson Brown I added a piece to the left side, just for balance, because I have a piece on the right side up here. And then I added a strip underneath, and then I put the Adele block, attached that. And then what I did, I went back and I measured the length of this. It's 58 1/4. And this one was not measuring quite that. So I did add a strip of fabric at the bottom of the column and one at the top. And then I trimmed what I needed off. So both columns measure 58 1/4. And I think this column is 14 inches wide and this column is 14 1/2. If I want my quadrant to be more on the square side, I need to probably make these two columns a little bit wider, ideally about 15 inches, because 15 times 4 is 60. So as I'm putting together the next two columns, I am gonna try to make up for that. Some of these shirts over here are pretty wide, so I might measure those and see if I can compensate on that fourth column on the width. So I'm having fun so far. It's just kind of fun to piecemeal it together. I know for t-shirt quilts, a lot of the time you see like literally just square block formations of like 4x4. The blocks are all the same size. This kind of shirt, well, this kind of quilt, there's a lot of shirts in it, and in order to fit them all, I really had to cut them down as small as I could, and in doing so, that means none of them are going to be the same size. So it's a little chaotic, but it's scrappy, it's fun, it's a little unpredictable. There's a lot of visual interest in a layout like this, so if it's not your jam, that's totally fine. This is a little bit more on the complicated side when it comes to piecing together a quilt top, just because there's so many different measurements, whereas your typical layout, everything's square and there's rows and sashing. So I am going to keep on plugging away at this, and I will meet you back here after I finish column number 3. This one is even older, I think. I just saw, oh, there it is. Spring 2015. Look at that. 10 years. Alright, so I got the third column pieced. I don't love what's going on here. I don't know. I added a lot of fabric around those two blocks, and I think I don't know, I switched the layout around on that column, so maybe I could have put the Les Mis shirt back up at the top, but I think once I get this whole quilt assembled, it's not going to be, I might have other blocks that end up looking like that. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm not going to take it apart, but it's okay. I did end up, this column measured 16.25 inches. This column I think is 14.5, and this one is 14. So I think I kind of compensated on the width for this one. And I don't want to add long vertical sashing strips between the columns. I feel like that would be kind of, well, I say distracting, like the whole quilt isn't distracting, but I want it to remain more of a collage look. So I don't want to do vertical sashing that's too long like that. So let's see, I'm going to go ahead and do the last column and see what my final width is. Then I'll make a note of that so that when I do my second quadrant, it's the same size. But yeah, it's going okay so far. Just wish I had kind of, I don't know, done that part a little bit differently. Oh well, it'll be fine. I'm just obsessing over it. So, all right, on to the fourth column. Here is the first quadrant. Everything went together fine. I think in the beginning when I was measuring over here, I used a different tape measure. So I ended up having to trim a little bit at the bottom, but the final measurement on this is 58, I just wrote it down, hold on, 58.75 inches wide, and 57.75 inches tall. So I'm doing good in terms of size. If I can repeat this for the next 3 quadrants, I should be good. I'm thinking if I end up having like an empty space, I might just use some of the scrap fabric to make like a basic quilt block or a couple of half square triangles, something to fill it in, but it should go together fine. So we're about to get hammered with some rain, so I am going to end it here for today, and I guess I'll film, I was planning on showing like the long arm quilting process for this, and then I was going to show how I machine bind, so I don't think I'll film again until I get to the point where I'm ready to load it on my frame and quilt it. But if I run into any issues or I need to jump on here and update y'all on something, I will throw in like an extra video, but I hope this has inspired somebody to tackle a t-shirt quilt. It might not be, this specific layout might not be for everyone. It is kind of all over the place, but it's not that hard. Once you get all the t-shirts fused with interfacing, it's just like assembling a regular quilt. So until I see you next time, I hope that you enjoy your sewing. Okay, if the light is on the microphone, it is unmuted.